Hi there. Welcome to Thursday and welcome to What You Need to Know. I am Sybil Wilkes, and what you need to know is that it is George Wallace Thursday. Hello, Mr. Wallace.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. Comment allez-vous?
Come see,
Je
come
vais
saw.
bien. Oui,
Come,
oui, oui.
come see, come saw. And also, our very special guest today is former mayor of Atlanta, Bill Campbell. Hello, Your Honor. How are you?
So nice to join two of my dear friends, Sybil, who I've known forever, and George, who has been such a good friend and an Atlanta native, as you know. And so, if you can believe it, Sybil, George Wallace did a fundraiser for me when I was running for mayor in 1993.
Wow.
So how about that? And then I saw
That's
him
awesome.
in Vegas not too long ago, and he was just wonderful, hosting me out there and having a wonderful dinner. So it's always good to see my dear friend. And of course, Sybil, you and I go way back also.
That's right. We had great times there in Atlanta and the Tom Jordan Morning Show, bringing those
Yes, we
sky
did.
shows there, and you're being such a gracious host to us there those many years and opportunities to have you on the show as well. So it is great. It's great. I'm very glad to reconnect with you today and to talk about what in the world is going on.
What is going on?
What the
What in
world?
the world is well, WTF, one of the two, right?
Right.
Yes,
Right.
WTF for sure, with
For
three
Yeah.
sure.
exclamation points. It's been the most unbelievable time in my life, and the remarkable thing is how exhausting it has been. Every day there's been a new crisis that's unnecessary, and it's really strained the collective conscience of the country. In addition to the fact that there's a pandemic,
Mhm.
which is something we've never experienced before, and just the notion of us trying to get through that when you have someone, an imbecile in the White House who is just absolutely bereft of any common sense, any plan. The funny thing is, I'll jump ahead a little bit, Sybil and George. I was wondering if they were to simply ask Trump, what is your plan? Right? I mean, is the plan simply we're waiting for a vaccine so we would knock another 500,000 people off before the vaccine gets here? There's not a plan. And there are other countries around the world that have implemented a number of strategic restrictions that have allowed them to their economy to come back, to go back
Mhm.
to some normalcy, but not here. They're still not even, they're doing fundraisers for PPE equipment still. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just remarkable. All the things that you would imagine that should have started, the testing, the mask, the social distancing, just the PPE equipment. Remember when we started this, the reason that they were advocating, Dr. Fauci was advocating not using masks, was
Not
because they
wearing
didn't
it.
have enough PPE equipment for the first line workers.
Right.
And now they're still not using masks. I mean, it's just mind boggling, and it's so exhausting, and it's killing people. The
Yes.
most
Yes.
remarkable thing about law is people are dying. There's
Yes.
sometimes when poor leadership leads to, bad roads or bad schools or bad air. But this terrible leadership is actually leading to people dying.
Yeah.
And not only are they dying, but 7 million people have already contracted the virus, and there are long-term health implications of that. So I'll tell you, as I said when we were talking before the show started, I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
Mm.
And there's never been an election where I think people want the incumbent to be removed as quickly as possible so that we can get to some sense of normalcy. I mean, remember, we've been through bad presidents,
Yeah.
Nixon,
Yeah.
Reagan, Bush
Right.
one, Bush two, but
Mhm.
nothing like this.
Nothing
I
like
mean,
this.
he is easily the worst ever by far. But in addition to that, people are dying, and there's still no plan. And it's just, I can't tell you. And with all that being said, I was listening to something. I'm going to jump in. I was listening to MSNBC today, which is
Mhm.
the only sane thing you can do to try to find some sanity in this world of craziness, right? And they were interviewing these three young Black women,
Yes.
and they were talking about, well, Joe Biden has never apologized for the crime bill, and that just troubles me, and I'm just not
Yeah.
sure. And I'm like, on the one hand, you've got Hitler, you
Yeah.
kind of got Mussolini and
Yeah.
Hitler versus a nice guy like Joe Biden, not perfect, but compared to, there's what was the old thing, compared to what? And so you've got Joe Biden versus Hitler, and people, I'm not sure about whether or not he what does Trump ever apologize for? How about apologizing for a quarter of a million people who dead?
Die, right?
How about the apologizing for the racist policies he's put in place, or apologizing for the destruction of the economy, or don't get me started, because it's so exhausting.
It is,
and I just can't wait. And every sane person that I run into, except for those 3 women that were talking today and 50 Cent. Other than those people, everybody understands that this is an election where sanity and civility has to be restored. Yeah. There already 47 million people have voted in America already. That's almost a third of the number of people that voted in 2016. Think about that. It's only 2 or 3 days of early voting, right? And already a third have voted. And by the way, mostly Democrats and an awful lot of black people. Anytime you see people standing in line, it's one or 2 things. It's the Popeye's chicken sandwich, or they're voting for. I knew you liked that, George. Or they're voting early. And I'll tell you something. I love my people because they are standing in line. They had a news clip from Atlanta. In fact, there's a Blaine Alexander who is with the NBC, and she interviewed a young mother who was standing she was in the rain back in the primary with her little baby, and in the rain for 3 hours. Yes. And she said then, this is in the primary back in July, and she said, it's raining, it's been 3 hours, but I'm not leaving. And she went ahead and voted. And so they just interviewed her again. She said, well, this time it only took about 20 minutes. It was much better. And every time you see people that are interviewing these black people in line, they're saying, I've got to vote. I understand how important it is. I don't care if I have to stand in line for 10 or 12 hours. And it reminds me of when Mandela was running for president of South Africa. And they had these lines of people, and they were like 2 or 3 days. Remember, they had to have a fingerprint in order for them to vote. And it's just like that. I think black people understand, white people of good conscience understand, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, everybody knows that Trump must be removed in order for America to move forward. That's just where we are today. So I understand when you say, what in the world, because it's so exhausting. I don't know how anybody could ever, and then the violence. In addition, the one thing that we've never seen before, and remember, George is much older than me, but let me just say this. I am a person who actually remembers, right? I mean,
I'm trying to be nice to you.
Let me say this. Look, unlike, I'm 67, right? And so unlike a lot of people who are my age, my father was president of the NAACP. And in Raleigh, North Carolina, we would march on one side of the street, and the Klan in full regalia with the hoods, everything would march on the other side. And so I actually remember color and white water fountains and marching and the Klan and the threats of violence. All of that, right, George? You know about that.
Yes, sitting at the counter.
George actually used to date Harriet Tubman. So he really knew it. They were very close. They were very close. And so George actually, before Harriet was able to rescue people, George was able to.
No, I helped her help the people. I was with her. That's how old I am.
He sent her on her way with a funny joke. Yes. Yeah.
By the way, you're the first guest that we ever had on that we let talk this long before we met. You keep talking. We don't have to say a word. Keep talking.
Hollywood Shelf said, Minnesota.
This has been wonderful having you on, and what you're saying, talking about Trump is most hated to get out of the office. You remember we thought George W. Bush was so bad, but Trump is so bad now. He has us doing things that we thought we would never do. We now see George W. Bush and we go, hey, it's that nice guy. Yeah,
he came to John Lewis's funeral, and people were so glad to see him. Oh my God.
They applauded.
We're so great to see you, President Bush, who was one of the worst presidents ever. And they were like, oh my goodness. Everything is compared to what in life? In life, everything is compared to what? And I will say to you that when you think about all that we have been through as a people, to now have a flat out racist who is an imbecile. You know, it'd be different if he was a racist and really smart, but here's an idiot with idiot children, and he's an imbecile, and he's killing people with his having no plan for dealing with the pandemic, and he's unapologetic about it all. And so that's why when you see so many people that are voting and waiting in line to vote, and in Georgia, 2.5 million people have voted early already. Yeah. That's almost 50%. Almost 50%. George, don't you started to pull your clothes off already.
No, George is going blue. George is going blue. That's blue. I'm saying blue. George is going blue. We're going blue. Yeah, okay. I'm not taking my clothes off. Trust me. You don't want to see that. But you know, he's so bad. Just think what happened yesterday with President Barack Obama talking about him. How you never heard the president just come out and just flat out say he's a liar, he's a thief, he's a con man, he's all of this stuff, and he's incapable of doing the job.
And he called him that, like that old crazy uncle. He really, I mean, he just, all of the things that we have thought President Obama voiced yesterday, and our discussions that we have in our small groups as we are socially distanced as a result of this. Let me ask you this, Mr. Mayor, because you have talked about a couple of things here. You talked about the fatigue that we have, and definitely we're all just really tired. We want November 3rd to come with the result, the positive result that we want, the good positive this time. And also people are just tired. I don't even know if they're going to watch tonight's debate. What do you think about that? Because we're not seeing much enthusiasm at all, and people just want it to be over. What do you think we can expect for tonight?
Well, first of all, that's why I mentioned the fact that 47 million people have already voted. Yeah. So imagine that puts you in a whole. That's a third of America has already voted before we even get to election day. And I think that there is an exhaustion. What happened in the first debate was really illustrative of what kind of person Trump is. And then when you see that the difference between a person of dignity like Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris. Let me just also say this. You talk about the debate tonight, right? Which is really meaningless because I don't know who could be undecided. Let me just say this now.
Right.
You know, they gave Joe Biden a hard time when he was on the radio show. And he said, "If you ain't black if you're voting for Trump."
He should not apologize. He should not apologize.
Well, that's exactly how everybody feels.
Yes.
If you're voting for Trump, you are. I wouldn't say ain't, but you are not black. If you're, and other than 50 Cent, what Negro could be thinking about voting for Trump, really? And I'm delighted that even Ice Cube has melted right back down because he understood that this is a time of national black import. You know, this is a time when your black card is right there to be put into that little slot with the little thing, and you have to make certain that you have to save our race. Our race.
Sybil, can I say this about the debate tonight? I think the debate tonight is going to be exactly the same. I think they might mute his button, but he's going to continue talking and interrupting. And I think the same thing is going to continue to happen. And Biden is going to have to say, "Man, would you shut up?" Yeah. He's going to have to do that again. So
and the dirty tricks, George, because there's a report that he has invited Hunter Biden's former partner to sit there in the audience. There's going to be a lot of discussion about that. Don't let Joe Biden have to bring up the Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. You know, that's really something that Joe Biden could do. He won't, because he's too much of a gentleman.
He should. He's too much of a gentleman. But he should say, speaking of sons, how about that nice young son of yours? How come we never see you with him? How come we never see him on the golf course? How come you never present him in the public and take him fishing like most kids? You saw the Obama kids. You saw the Bush kids. You're really not a good father, are you? You're just not a good man.
The absolute utter hypocrisy, the hypocrisy of the Republicans who criticized Obama and Michelle Obama. You know, I distinctly remember they criticized Michelle Obama when she wore shorts, getting off Air Force One, going on vacation. She was going on vacation, and they criticized her. This was beneath the dignity. And think about what we have with this first family, and how it's just remarkable. Don't get me started, except to say I don't think the debate will be meaningful because I don't believe there are really very few undecided voters, number one. And number two, Trump is not going to change from who he is. You know, a leopard never changes his spot. And I think people see the basic decency of Joe Biden. And they also, let me make one last point. Kamala Harris is the secret weapon. She's a secret bomb.
That's right.
But for far too long, Black women have been the backbone of every institution in Black America. If you go to any Black church, I mean, George went once or twice to a church. And let me just say this, any Black church you go to, the front row will be the men, there'll be the trustees.
The deacon board.
The deacon board. And the rest of the church is all Black women.
It's
right?
so true. So
if you're in a campaign, it's all Black women that are the ones that are making it work. And then you look at the civil rights movement, Dr. King and Dr. Abernathy and John Lewis and Andy Young and Joe Lowry. But the bulk, they were Black women who were really the backbone of the civil rights movement. And so isn't it time for Black men to stand up for Black women as they've done for Black men for so long? That's what really we need to be talking about. Even if you're not certain about Joe Biden, you should be certain about Kamala Harris, because this is a person who could easily step right into office and become the president of the United States. How about that?
I say she's going to be the first Black president. She's going to be the first female president. I think that's going to happen.
It would be wonderful for that to happen. So when you talk about the debate, I don't think there's anything substantive that could be gleaned from it, because I don't think there's any real undecided voters. And if somebody's saying right now they're undecided, they're going to vote for Trump, because how much more could you need from what he's already done? I mean, he got impeached. He tried bringing Hunter Biden's business partner. Remember when he had his Hollywood extra tape?
Yeah.
Still, he brought a couple of these women that had supposedly had dated Bill Clinton. That was going to be his. It's the same playbook. This guy never changes. So I really implore Black people, as much as you have already suffered, as long lines that you have already endured, it's still not enough. You know, Barack Obama had the best line. He said, here, Trump wants to take credit for the economy he inherited, but doesn't want to take any blame for the pandemic that he ignored. I mean, it's just that's what he is.
Which is so symbolic of his life, right? And so let me, the one thing that I saw the same piece today on MSNBC with the young Black women, and the only thing I could think of, Mayor Bill, is that in this reality TV segment of our lives, of our reality, such as it is, the only thing I could think of is these women were just trying to get on television. I could not fathom them, first of all, not having made a decision. Secondly, to use this, they don't know anything about the crime bill. They don't know anything about the 1994
They weren't
crime
even
bill.
born in 93.
Exactly.
They were like 22, 23 years old, and the crime bill is in 1993. My goodness.
That's right.
And the truth be told about the crime bill, when you come up to it, virtually all of the Black caucus voted for it even then.
They did. The entire Black caucus.
The entire Black caucus. It was the crack was ravaging our communities. And so there was a lot. But forget that. How can young Black women stand there with Kamala Harris as the vice president candidate, and you'd say, I'm undecided?
Right.
I was right there with you. I was pacing in front of the television at the time. I was speechless. That's all I can say.
Mayor, you talked earlier about every day he does something stupid. Now, I don't know whether you guys watched today about he releasing 60 Minutes early today, disrespecting the network. And you talked about the health plan. She asked him about it. We have one coming. She says, you've been saying that for 3 years now. We have one coming. What is the plan? We have one. It's a good plan. What is it? We have just lying. And everybody knows he's lying.
Every 2 weeks, remember?
That's right.
We're gonna have it in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Yep. Let me ask you about the state politics of Georgia. What do you think? What are your thoughts in terms of, because you guys really do have an opportunity to make some big differences there, obviously in the United States Senate. Both offices, both seats are up for a vote. So what are your thoughts on those two, especially in terms of Reverend Raphael Warnock running and his lead right now?
There's two. First of all, in addition to the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, which is vital for the country's survival, or the Senate races are just as important, because Trump has put these right-wing zealots in the federal judiciary, and that will last far longer. For people who really understand politics, the most important thing that a president can do is appoint judges, because they last forever.
Exactly.
Forever. And the Senate seats, if they flip, if you were to flip, look, here's what's going to happen. In Alabama, Doug Jones will lose just because it's Alabama, right? In Maine, almost certainly Collins will lose, and so that's a wash. Do we have to pick up 3 seats? Almost certainly you pick up a seat in Arizona, the astronaut, who, by the way, is of course the husband of Gabby Gifford, who was shot down.
Yeah.
Right. Then I think they'll certainly pick up a Senate seat in Colorado. Right. Then there's the potential for picking up one here with John Ossoff, and then one in North Carolina with Tillis, right, and Cunningham. The seat here, there's 2 seats that are open here. The first seat, you asked about Warnock's seat actually would not be decided until January.
Because they'll have to have a runoff, right?
Oh,
yeah. Let me explain. The Senate seat that Warnock is running for was a seat where the senator stepped down. He had a health issue. Johnny Ossoff. So he stepped down in the middle of his term. So Kemp appointed Kelly Loeffler, who owned the WNBA team.
Yeah, the
black women, right? It's nothing but black women.
Yep.
So, and they're all for Warnock. That's just how crazy that is, right? But that's unless someone gets 50% of the vote on November the 3rd, which is very unlikely, 28 people that are running. Right. Warnock is running way ahead, but 38, 39%, very, very hard to get over 50%. That would be a runoff in January. So put that aside for a second. By the way, he's running the best commercials anybody's seen in a long time.
Very good.
Yeah.
Incredible commercials. And Stacey Abrams has put her entire operation behind getting Warnock elected. And it's just terrific to see so many people and the enthusiasm for him.
So what you're saying is that we will be able to get Warnock on this show with me and Sybil. That's what you just said, right? You remember earlier today, I tried to talk to his scheduler in order to try to get him on. And there's no doubt before January, he'll be on your show, because there'll be a runoff with either Kelly Loeffler or Doug Collins, those are the 2 right wingers. Kelly Loeffler actually has a commercial saying she's to the right of Attila the Hun. Am I right? She actually have a commercial saying she's to the right of Attila the Hun. Who says that kind of stuff? And worse than that, you got Herschel Walker going, I approve.
Oh, don't get me started with that Negro, Herschel Walker.
You came real close with that Negro, didn't you?
Too many blows to the head. He ran into the line too many times. So in any event, John Ossoff, however, is running neck and neck with David Perdue.
Okay.
Who is the one who tried mispronouncing Kamala Harris's name at the rally when Trump was here in Macon 3 or 4 days ago. To show you the impact, he's been on the Senate Finance Committee with Kamala Harris for 3 years, sitting right next to her. He comes to the rally and intentionally mispronounces her name just for to be able to show that he's part of the whole Trump. Disrespecting black women kind of thing. John Ossoff raised $2 million overnight just on the basis of that indiscretion, that racist rant by David Perdue. They're running neck and neck. So you ask about the race here, 2.5 million people have already voted, mostly Democrats. We just have to see, Georgia's still a tough state to pull it out. Stacey Abrams came with 55,000 votes to being governor. So there's a lot of people that were registered with Stacey Abrams' organization. Right. So there's a real chance of we getting John Ossoff elected on November the 3rd. That one will be decided on November the 3rd. The Warnock race with Doug Collins, and they were trying to decide whether Kelly Loeffler or Doug Collins are going to be in the runoff with Warnock. That'll probably be decided in the runoff in January.
I got a question to ask you about that. I got a question to ask you about the runoff and 20 something contenders for that particular seat.
24 people.
But my first question is, you talked about Herschel Walker and too
Yeah.
many hits to the head. What's Vernon Jones's excuse?
I'll tell you, really one of the, I've known Vernon for a number of years. He's from North Carolina. He went to North Carolina Central, and in fact, I'm from North Carolina, so everybody's calling me like, what in the world happened to this Negro? So it is absolutely inexplicable. Except we saw little inklings of it along the way. George Bush. He wanted to go and meet George Bush when he landed at the airport way back in 2000. Everybody's like, well, that's odd, and then he kept talking about how he did like some of the Republican things, and so it's been a steady erosion of his black principles, and it's unfortunate and it's tragic, because how could you sell out your community? And then in addition to selling out your community, look, if you're going to vote for Trump, just be quiet about it and
shut up. Yeah.
Right. That's first of all, don't vote, but if you have to, vote quietly. Right. But don't let them pass you around like a step infection. I mean, they're passing him around.
You mean like in Macon, Georgia, they will kill his ass in the parking lot once he leaves.
Look, they're passing him around like
in Macon,
like one of those black statues that they put out in front of the yard.
Yeah, the lawn jockey.
Right. To me, of all the things that I've seen, that is the most shocking and inexcusable. So I have nothing to say other than it's just, look, it's the reason that we had 5 million slaves and 500,000 slave owners. And they kept us that way for years because of people like Vernon Jones, because you cannot have people that just betray their race in such an insidious way. And then they want to come back to our community. Look, as soon as Biden wins, Vernon Jones will be right there wanting to be re-embraced by us. And he has to be shunned and never allowed to ever come back into our community. It's tragic and it's sordid. And I wish that I could really tell you how I feel about it, but Sybil, I just want you to know that.
Sybil, what can I do? I don't know what to do. He's been a friend of mine for 30 years. I don't agree with him, but I still have to say hello and respect. I don't know.
Last time I saw, I wasn't even going to say anything, Sybil. Last time I saw Vernon Jones in Atlanta, he was with George Wallace. And so I said to myself, well,
you know what?
I said, well.
Wait a minute. I'm asking you for your help now. I'm asking you.
And in true George Wallace form, George probably paid for dinner.
There's no doubt about that.
There's no doubt about that. And so I know that George and Vernon were actually friends. And as I say, it's not as though this is a lightning bolt. I mean, one thing, we saw some evidence that he was perhaps not as more conservative than we would have liked, but this total capitulation to being a black lawn jockey and passed around in the crowd, which just is stunning to me. So I have no explanation for it, except to say that, like 50 Cent, I mean, at least 50 Cent said it's because of my taxes. I mean, at least it gave some logical, repulsive explanation. But Vernon Jones, I mean, they actually had him to speak at the Republican National Convention, then to go to a rally and have himself handed along as though he is some
without a mask,
without any shame. It was just shocking. So I don't know, but I'll be glad when, again, it's exhausting. These are the kind of things that really make you wonder about what he is seeing, and the most difficult thing about it is Black people have supported him his entire political life. White people abandoned him, and they would have indicted him if he was left to the white powers that be. It was Black people that supported him and elected him and continued to elect him. And all Black people, you understand? I mean, his constituency was all Black. So it's not as though there was anything where he could say, "Oh, I've had support from whites and blacks.
Sides, yeah.
The white people despise him, and now black people hate him. So I don't know where he goes from here.
Wow.
But one thing
other than George Wallace,
maybe he can open for you when you go back to Vegas.
Go ahead. Say what?
Maybe he can open for you when you go back to Vegas.
Vernon is through. We're through with Vernon. All the people in Georgia, we want to convince you that are watching right now, make sure you vote your ass off for John Ossoff.
Exactly. That's a great yard sign. Vote your ass off.
Vote your ass off for John Ossoff.
I've known John Ossoff since he was a little kid. In fact, they've now got a...
He's still a little kid.
He's a young man, very bright though. They've got a poster now with him, with Maynard Jackson, and John Ossoff as like a little kid. In fact, I'm trying to put it up for you. It's just it's really a very darling little thing. It's saying that Maynard Jackson saw John Ossoff as a leader even as a little kid. So he's been involved for a long time, and we're hoping that he will win. And then once they win, the Democrats are lucky enough, and I'm knocking on wood and fingers crossed and everything, because if we win that, then we can take care of what they're doing in the Supreme Court. It's shocking. It's shocking that they humiliated Barack Obama for 9 months, and then they passed this woman in 9 days. It's almost, and then they actually have the nerve to say, "Well, are you going to pack the court?" You damn right. As soon as he gets in, don't even wait. The moment he gets in, there ought to be packed. Let's add. How about just adding some more? Add another 4 seats.
We got another 4 seats. We got Puerto Rico and we got Washington D.C. Bam.
I like it all. So there you go. Hey, look, I've loved hanging out with you guys. Really, you are two of my favorite people.
I am so appreciative of.
Nobody told you were leaving yet. We didn't say you were leaving yet.
George, I thought after we talked about Vernon Jones, you and Vernon hanging out, I thought it's just going to be me and Sybil be hosting this in the future. In fact, George, thank you for your. I was going to let you go, George. Cut George's feed, please.
Mayor Bill, you have the best sense of humor. Let me just share this with people. There have been times when we come to Atlanta and we did the show. One time we did the soap opera It's Your World live, right? And Mayor Bill was a part of that. And he was just so delightful. And I remember recording it, and Mayor Bill, he even went off on a different tangent. He's like, in my father's house, there are many rooms. And we're like, where is that in the script?
They come from, right?
But it was great. It was absolutely, that you have, given us so much to think about. And also in terms of not only what's going on now, but as we get into the future, what's the first thing you'd like to see the Biden administration do? They're all talking about what you're going to do on day one.
Yeah, day one.
What would you like to see?
Because when I become president, I ain't doing shit on day one, okay? I ain't doing a damn thing. Day one, I'm on vacation.
George, it's not going to be a big party because we're in the middle of a pandemic. So,
and you're talking about that. And before I answer the question after this, even if Biden wins, I don't think Trump will show up for the inauguration.
You know what? Actually, I think it'll be the first time that the president would not show up for the inauguration. Yeah. And you asked me the first thing. I really believe that the first order of business, in fact, as soon as the election, right after election day, there's all this nonsense about we're going to have to wait days. I don't believe we're going to have to wait days. I believe it's going to be over. And by the way, for people who are watching this broadcast, this election really is going to come down to 3 states. There's only 3 states. Pay no attention to the national polling. It doesn't matter about how many polls you see, 10 points. It's only 3 states. It's Michigan, it's Wisconsin, and it's Pennsylvania. And those 3 states, by the way, here's the interesting thing. 135 million people voted in 2016. Trump won by 70,000 votes.
Right.
70,000 votes out of 135 million. And those votes, where we really lost it is in Philadelphia, Detroit, and Milwaukee. The black vote in those 3 cities had more than enough votes in those 3 cities where we could have put Hillary Clinton in and we wouldn't have had to go through this hell for 4 years. And you're seeing now in those 3 places, and this is not even talking about, Florida, Biden is actually ahead in Florida. He's running ahead in North Carolina. He wins any of those places, Arizona, it's all over. But if those 3 states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. So people don't need to pay a lot of attention to anything else because everything else is already really settled. Everybody knows where, Montana. I mean, they only got like 12 people in Montana. But Montana,
they have more cows. They have more cows than they do people in Montana. Did you know that?
That's for sure.
Funny story.
Mayor Bill, can you explain about the importance of those? Because they call those battleground states. Can you explain the importance of those and why those three states?
I'm sure a lot of people wonder about the Electoral College and what it really means. And so when they say battleground states, you would think that if Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than the imbecile,
it should have been a wash.
It should have been a wash. But the way that it actually works is each state had the number of congressmen and plus the 2 senators. That equals the number of electoral votes for a state. So as an example, you've got Michigan is a large state, Pennsylvania is a large state, Wisconsin's a moderate-sized state, right? But those 3 states allowed the number of electoral votes that push Trump over. So when they say battleground states, they mean that everything. Look, New York is going to go for Biden. California is going to go. Oregon is going to go for Biden.
Georgia.
All these things are already set. When I say set, it means there's no doubt about who's going to win those states.
Yeah.
When they say battleground states, it means that these states are the ones that really will decide the election. And they're going to decide the election because those electoral votes, those numbers of votes that push you to 270. Remember, the number is 270.
Yeah, 270.
Those 3 states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, and really don't even worry about it's Detroit, Philadelphia, and Milwaukee. Those 3 cities that are black cities. And so here's a perfect in Michigan, perfect example. In Michigan, Trump won by 10,000 votes.
Yep.
Out of 20 million votes cast, he won by 10,000 votes. In Detroit alone, Obama got 80,000 more votes in 2012 than Hillary Clinton got in 2016. Think about that. Yeah. 80,000 more. Trump won by only 10,000 votes.
Right.
So there's more than enough votes in Detroit, in Philadelphia, and in Milwaukee for this national nightmare to be over. So
they're coming out this time.
We really have to focus on.
They're coming out this time.
And just
a couple of other. Florida is in play. North Carolina is in play. Georgia is actually in play.
Do you think Ohio is?
Ohio. The thing about Ohio is it really Ohio and Georgia. I do not really believe are going to go for Biden. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard pull, right? Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, they've always gone for the Democrats.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia has really it's much more of a right-wing state. Right. And, I mean, just unfortunate. Ohio is it's an old school industrial state, and the way you're able to see it is they have no statewide elected officials that are black or Democrats in Ohio or Georgia. So that tells you these are really Republican states.
Right.
It's different in Michigan. Michigan has as you know, they have a Democratic governor who they tried to kill and kidnap. Yeah. Right? Pennsylvania has a Democratic governor, and Wisconsin has a Democratic governor. And that makes a real difference for the psychology of the vote, getting out the vote, protecting the vote, keeping voter suppression down. I mean, look, just today, before I came to do this, they had armed Gestapo Trumpites outside of a polling place in Florida today. Yeah. I mean, think about it. They're like with rifles outside the polling place. They said, the Trump organization has hired us to be there. Of course, the Trump people are like, oh, we didn't hire them. Well, how did they get there?
Yeah, right.
I'm simply saying that's why those battleground states of Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania are so critical. They have Democratic governors. They have a Democratic infrastructure, and it means that voter suppression is a lot more difficult. In fact, to wrap this up, the Supreme Court, 4-4. They want to be able to continue to count the votes that come in with a postmark by election day. I mean, that makes sense. If you voted before the election day, your vote still ought to count. Right. The Republicans don't want that, right? They don't want that. And it was a 4-4 vote, meaning that as soon as they get this
woman, Amy Barrett, I
say her name every day. There's more, more. I mean, she looks like she's something out of A Handmaid's Tale. I mean, it's just amazing.
There's a lot of that. Stepford wives, you name it. Yeah, exactly.
It is, and that's why we need to get Biden and the Senate, and then pack the court, and then put the. And by the way, the best thing, if I were to say that if there was one thing that Obama did not do that he should have done, it was to put a black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
I mean,
but he couldn't get on there because of the Senate. He couldn't get her on there because he couldn't get anybody on because of the Senate.
That's not true.
He nominated. He
nominated, but he
put someone in my arm.
Yeah.
He put a Hispanic woman.
He put a Hispanic woman on before a black
woman. He put a Hispanic woman on the Supreme Court. And so my point simply is for Biden to say right off the bat, there's going to be my first appointment to the Supreme Court will be a black woman. Again, those 3 black women who were sitting there on MSNBC today, did you not hear that? Did you not hear him say appointment to be a black woman to the Supreme Court?
No.
But I want to make it perfectly clear. That was his first 2 years in office that he put her in. After that, the Senate was over Republican ruled, so he couldn't do anything. That's what held up all of this.
And that's why they have this huge avalanche of right-wing zealots that Trump has put in.
Exactly.
And it's really, people have no idea because they don't really focus on the federal judiciary.
Right.
The big picture, war and peace and, the big picture items that everybody always looks at. But it's the judges, the federal judges.
Exactly. That's what I always worried about.
Jobs for life.
She's like 45 years old.
Yeah.
She could
be there another 45 years, if not more.
Yeah, she's 88 years old. Imagine you could be there, all the bad decisions that she could render. Think about, I hate to say Clarence Thomas's name, right? Because it's right next to Vernon Jones, right? George.
Clarence Thomas is wearing the wrong. He should have on a white robe and a hood.
Why is George still on our podcast? I don't understand. What are you still doing, George?
You know, I control the buttons, right, Mayor? I could mute you right now. I could. But Sybil, I never asked you a question, Sybil. Can I ask you a question? I never asked you a question, Sybil.
Can I just make one suggestion for the Supreme Court?
Yes.
My first suggestion for a black woman is for Anita Hill to be nominated for the United States Supreme Court and to go and sit next to Clarence Thomas.
Wouldn't that be something? With the Coca-Cola can right
there in front of him. Yes, sir.
Anita Hill, put her in. So.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Is it true that you said that you had a long done?
I told you, I knew George could not help himself. This is interestingly enough.
Sybil, my question for you, I never asked you a question. What would you like to see happen on the first day?
Look, first day has got to be pandemic.
I'm talking to Sybil.
You're talking to Sybil.
Yeah.
George, what?
I agree with Mayor Bill Campbell. I think that it has to be, the first thing he has to do is bring Dr. Anthony Fauci into the Oval Office and say, give us your plan, or actually the day after he is named as the winner, and say, give us your plan. And then on January 20th, you go forth and get it started.
Dr. Anthony Fauci should get up and walk out right now. He should walk out right now and stop.
And in fact, he should convene a group of scientists with Fauci leading the pack.
Exactly.
And after the election day, give me the plan, and we're going to start. Because I tell you what, I believe that the day after the election, once Trump is no longer there, the Republicans will scatter. Mm-hmm. And it won't be, okay, we got to wait to January the 20th. I really believe that there would be a real appetite for, let's turn the corner on this nightmare. Let's have some sensible solutions to how we deal with the pandemic, how we bring the country back together. I mean, all of these small black restaurants and small black hair salons and small black businesses that have been decimated by this pandemic. It's not that the health issues are probably terrible. But the economy of Black America is really based in small business, and they're just been decimated. And I mean, you in Atlanta, George, as we know, you go all these small restaurants and shops, and these people who put their life savings into it, and then suddenly it's all gone, and it's gone because we could have today. I'm not sure if it's Italy put in a severe 6-week lockdown. Right?
Ireland.
Ireland put out a 6-week lockdown. George, I'm really impressed. So
I know everything. I know it. I may not say it, but I know in Ireland they're preparing for Christmas. They want Christmas to be a nice holiday, so they're locking down right now for 6 weeks. Everybody's got to wear masks.
Absolute lockdown.
We could do that.
Because, and think about this, if America had done that at the very beginning, a 6-week lockdown, we would have been so much further ahead.
Totally.
And we would be able to, and testing, PPE equipment, strategy, any of those things, and a vaccine all wrapped up into it, but not, there's no problem. It's going to disappear. There's no
Easter. We'll have it. It'll be done. And
on that 6-month lockdown, on that 6-week lockdown,
the solution is get to some Windex and put it in your veins. I mean, how about that? How in the world could you have a president saying get some Windex?
Because he's stupid.
Yeah. Mayor Bill, we are going to ask you in front of everybody that's watching today to please come back. It's been so great to hear you and to see you. And as I told you before we went on the air, your speech, at the homegoing service, John Lewis just made my heart sing. It was at such a sad time, but obviously your relationship with him and giving us our marching orders, that was the icing on the cake for me.
You know what it did, Sybil? He did the same thing at John Lewis's funeral that President Barack Obama did yesterday. How did y'all feel when he walked out there? Didn't you feel good all of a sudden back again, like, hey, I'm back in America? When Barack Obama, that's how we felt when you walked up there, sir.
Well, it's very, very kind to both of you. And remember, Barack Obama did the same thing at John Lewis's funeral.
That's right.
So it's just, John was such a remarkable hero and so humble and thoughtful. And he really, to come from rural Alabama and really sort of represent Black people in a way that made us all proud, and the sacrifice that he made and his determination to always have this sort of incorruptible integrity, it just made all of us feel very proud to be a part of the celebration of his life. And I will leave this broadcast by telling you, as I say, when I said at the funeral, in his last few days, the one thing that he was adamant about more than anything else was that Trump had to be removed. And I tried to frame it in a better way for consumption, right, for the funeral. But his words, when we both understood there was not much left in terms of his life, and he kept saying, we have to remove Trump. He is destroying the planet, and he must be removed, and everybody's got to vote in November. And I think everybody understood what I was saying, but I want you to understand how with his last few days, he was most adamant about Trump being removed. And I think that speaks volumes about where his life, and think about everything that he saw in his lifetime.
Yeah.
All the hatred and the Bull Connors and the Klan and brutally beaten and was the most pernicious threat to Black people, and has to be removed. And so for anybody that's watching, if you haven't voted, please do so. If you have voted, make certain that you're taking other people and getting them to the polls, because this election, more than any in my lifetime, is the most important for us as a people. Sybil, I love you. Good to see you. George,
I love you too. I want to say one little thing before Sybil gets rid of me. Now, as dumb as Donald Trump is, I think in some ways he's such a con man. In some ways, and it has been said that this all could be strategically planned because he knows he's going to lose. Yet he has a fan base. He's going to go out. It has been said that maybe start his own network. Let's say if he does his own podcast, $10 per follower. He's got 10 million people out there. All of this could be strategically planned so he can make money. He's doing everything wrong. Why would anybody try to take food stamps away from 700,000 people? Why would anybody say any of the wrong things that he's saying? Everything he's saying is so wrong.
Well, you're assuming a logical and clear-thinking man. You're assuming a man with brains that he can do and with compassion.
That's what he's gonna do.
Yeah, but that's assuming that, he
That's
is.
what he's gonna do. He's doing everything wrong.
That's what he's done. You're assuming that, he was
But he has his followers. He's got, how many followers does he have?
Here's the other thing. How about the fact that a lot of these people who maybe, he may want to pay $10 a shot, they don't have jobs any more than the rest of us do.
But he has like millions of followers, and he'll get 10 million people for $10 a day, $10 a week. He'll make billions.
Let him go to Montana and hang out with each other. And the rest of us will be putting our lives together and stitching it back and moving forward. Love you guys.
Thank you so much, sir.
See you at Chick-fil-A. I'll meet you down at Chick-fil-A in a few minutes, okay?
Mayor Bill Campbell, thank you so much. George Wallace will return with us tonight. After the debate, we have our roundtable. C.K. Hoffler, president of the National Bar Association, will
One of the
join
great
us.
lawyers, by the way. C.K. Hoffler is a terrific lawyer.
I thought you were gone. I thought you were gone. She is wonderful. We love her. She's just like you. She's smart, just like you, and she'll do all the talking. She'll do all the talking, just like you.
Right. See you guys.
Sybil,
Bye. Thank you so much.
I love you. There's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Black action.
I think between George and President Hoffler, that's going to be pretty much it. But we will have others who will be joining us. Coy Malone will be with us.
I don't talk that much.
Okay, and Head Crack from the Morning Hustle will also be with us.
Head Crack will be here?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So go take a nap, then watch the debate, and then come back. Okay, George?
Take all my medicine. Prevagen, I got it all. D3. I got all my medicine.
And
I'll be back.